to help us introduce our next speaker.
Thank you.
Daddy, what did you say? Can I speak too? Can I whisper too?
Devondre, I was muted and you're not muted. You want to mute yourself?
I'm looking for the mute button. I can't see it. Let's see.
It won't let me mute you either.
Yeah, for some reason, I feel like we got to have the young ones want something to say.
Yeah, he's got something to say. Oh,
Yeah, he's like, you ain't giving me my spot in this presentation.
All right.
Daddy, I need some water too.
Okay, I'll get you some. Hold on, buddy, okay?
All right. So Derek is a behavioral advocate specialist, and he's also the head varsity football coach at Ottawa Hills. He has a bachelor's in business and human resources. He played college basketball at Davenport and is an advocate for our youth. So thank you so much for being here, Derek.
All right, no problem at all. So, all right, and hey, thanks, Devondre, for all that information. It was great information. I'm also going to be able to take back and go and study. So I'll just give a basic information about myself. My name is Derek King. I'm a native of Grand Rapids, as my brother George would say. So I grew up all around Grand Rapids, from the northeast side to the southeast side. I went to school here in Grand Rapids, went to 8 GRPS elementary schools just due to moving around quite a bit. And I graduated from Grand Rapids Creston High School back in 2001. Just a little bit more about myself here. Started kind of early. I'm 37 years old and I have a 21-year-old son that's on his junior year in college. I have a daughter that is on her freshman year in college, and I have a young soon to be 15-year-old. So, and starting kind of early and just kind of going through some things. There's some things that I think that Devondre hit on quite a bit, and it just kind of reminds me of, just systematically how racism affects all of us, but maybe we don't look at it specifically in certain ways. So from my standpoint, from employment, I can tell you right now, my mom was not employed quite a bit, so we were kind of homeless. We went through a lot of poverty, and that affected me growing up. So I actually lived, if you guys know where 131 and Leonard meets at, I lived under that bridge for quite maybe a couple weeks. We lived in a 1984 Chevy Cavalier. To this day, can't stand that car. We grew up in Mel Trotter and Degage, before Degage was Degage, literally in women's, centers for abuse, because we were homeless. So I've seen racism in a number of different ways, but even more so, I've seen a lot of poverty, which is why I have a heart for the youth. I can tell you right now, being able to affect and impact the youth is a big deal for me. So that's kind of my background. That's kind of where I come from. And I'm blessed to be in the position I am, and having the family that I do have, because a lot of people that come from the shoes and the background that I come from, they don't make it. Just being real, they struggle. We end up seeing them out in the streets. We see them homeless and everything like that. So I am very thankful to have the family I have and kind of follow the path that I'm on right now. So getting to some of the things that of how, I think there's a call to change. Growing up, I never thought I would work in corporate America. I never thought I'd work in education and all these things. And I've been able to do that. And I've been blessed to do that. But in doing that, I've been able to see a lot of things that kind of have opened my eyes up to what racism is. And especially on the employment side. I don't need to name names, but I have a mentor, and my mentor once told me that, you being in a specific position as a director is only going to be, going to last you a couple years. There's almost like that glass ceiling that some women faced and still face now, that they'll only go so high in employment. Well, that same glass ceiling is in effect for us as African-American males as well. We'll only go so far before we hit a point where we're not going to go any higher. And I was in a director position, and I'll never forget being in that director position of that company. my mentor, and most people may know him, but Jerry Bishop told me, son, you're only going to be in that position for 2 years. They will not allow you to run their company for longer than 2 years, or run that part of that position for longer than 2 years, just because there's not a lot of African American males that have been able to be successful in that position. So no matter how successful you are, you're not going to be there long. And to that, almost to the date, I was speaking with everyone on the panel about that actually happened. And it got me thinking about systematic racism and how things affect us. And I think Devondre hit on it pretty good. He talked about, wealth and the 1%, and, it makes me think about, Black wealth. It only makes up 2.6% of America. That's basically like for every $100 that Black Americans have, or that white Americans have, Black Americans only have $57 of that. That's how much we bring in from a household standpoint per $100 that white America makes. Employment. As of May 2020, Black men, we are at 16.9%, unemployed. Women were at 19.9% unemployed. That right there makes me think about it again. What are we doing to see that our people are being more employed and being successful in the positions that they're in? Education, from the education standpoint, I know I talked to Anthony about this, and we talked about we briefly talked about it, but the prison to school pipeline, that's a big deal. Black students, they're like 3 times more likely to be suspended than students that are Caucasian, and that affects our criminal justice system. We make up 13% of the population in America as African Americans, but 40% of the prison system is Black and brown people. So those are things that I think about in terms of racism and how it impacts me and how I want to be able to affect change and impact change. I know that Devondre again alluded to a couple people that he spoke about. Jane Elliott, she talks about the brown and blue eye experiment with racism, and how people just do not recognize that they could be racist or even prejudiced in certain ways. So I think that that's one person that we can kind of think about. I think I got 3 minutes left, so I'm looking at my timer here. So that's one person that we can definitely look at and kind of get an understanding of where we can affect change, impact change. I'll leave with this right here. I've been asked, I got a white friend, and he says, what can we do to help shift the change, shift the culture, and help? And, my thought process is maybe become a big brother, be a big sister to like a marginal or educationally exceptional kid who does not look like you. And then maybe show some empathy and apathy for someone that doesn't look like you. And then maybe start to help them in certain ways, and don't reward them. Sometimes I believe that us as African Americans, we don't need to be rewarded for everything that we do, because the world is not going to give us the rewards that we think we should have for overcoming certain achievements and overcoming certain areas where we're affected at. So that's kind of all I got. I'm open for any Q&A questions that we have at this moment, and that's all I got.
Derek, I got a question that wasn't, but it just made me think of it when I used to coach at Ottawa. When you are coaching and you're going in against East Grand Rapids, Grand Rapids Christian, those schools where, maybe it would be an opportunity for someone to become a mentor, where would they even start? How would they even begin that opportunity to try to mentor somebody?
I think there's a couple of different ways. Now, so in Grand Rapids, we have the Boys and Girls Club. There's 3 different clubs. You could start there. A lot of our kids after school, that's where they go. They go to the Boys and Girls Club. And they go there for either for lunch. In the summer times, they go there for mentorships. And a lot of those students from certain schools like Grand Valley, Grand Rapids Community College, they go there to do mentorship for those kids. So you can start at a Boys and Girls Club. You can start and become a big brother, big sister right out the gate, as long as you meet all the requirements. You can come into GRPS and become a volunteer within the school system. As long as you got to pass a background check in order to be able to mentor the kids that are in our system or that are in the inner city. So those are a few places that you can definitely get started.
Okay, to piggyback off of that question, you have clearly overcome a lot. I mean, speaking that you were homeless and living under a bridge, that's something myself, I couldn't even imagine that. What was your motivation and how did you overcome that to be in a different spot today?
My motivation was watching my mother struggle. My mom, that's my heart, and I'm gonna keep myself together on this, but my mom, my mother, our family was affected by drugs heavily. And so seeing my mother go through some of those struggles, it was crucial for me to say that I don't want that same struggle for my family to go the opposite way. A lot of our kids, they see the environment that they're in, and when they see the environment that they're in, they automatically say, well, this is what life is like, so I'm going to be like the people in my life. I'm going to follow that path. So it's okay to blow or smoke some weed. It's okay to drink some alcohol. It's okay to disrespect women, right? And seeing my mother go through all of those things, I was like, you know what? When I get a woman, I'm gonna make her honest. I'm gonna make sure I treat her right. When I get a woman, I'm gonna make sure I provide for her, because I don't want a woman to go through the same things that my mother went through. I'm gonna make sure I consistently pour into my boys, because I didn't have a father coming up. He was kind of in and out of my life. So consistently pouring into my kids. That was the driving motivation for me to get to from one point to another. And then the final point was to be able to know that there are other kids like me, and I want to be able to give back to those kids. So no, I'm not in corporate America anymore. I'm a high school coach at one of the last two city schools in Grand Rapids. And for me, the big deal with that is I'm blessed to be in a position to be able to give back. And no, I'm not in corporate America anymore. I've worked in corporate America for years. I got a bachelor's in HR, master's in business management. Could I go back to that? Yes, I could, just like that. I'm not going back. I don't plan on going back anytime soon. And the reason why is because there are so many other Dereks out there that need me. They need my face. They need my presence. They need my energy. And not only as a coach, my job is to fill the gap. Again, to step in and fill the gap where there are not enough of me's out there. It's bigger than sports. A friend of mine, Brandon Guyton from Grand Rapids Union, says it quite a bit. It's bigger than sports. So that's kind of my motivation, my mother, my background, my family aspect, and then these kids in the community, being able to give to them everything that I did not have. And to leave the earth on empty.
Oh, thank you. I feel like that statement, there are more Dereks out there, is extremely powerful, because you can see yourself in others and just wanting to uplift them. I think that was really beautiful. So thank you. I can introduce our next speaker that we have.
Period.
I'll follow up and just say that I think that I guess in closing, I think my guy Anthony said it, mentorship, talking about, you can be a mentor in a number of different areas by just getting involved with a kid or getting involved in your community. I don't think that you have to, and I mentioned these things. You can go to the Boys and Girls Club, become a big brother, big sister. You can do all those things, but I think it is very important that you find the space that needs you and get involved, period. That's just the bottom line. Get involved. Find the space that needs you, not the space that looks cool or looks like an area that, that everybody's being involved in. I think that is very important. That mentorship in specific areas where there is a need is very, very, very important. And then do your research as well. Don't just jump in blind, because if you don't do your research and you jump in blind, you could end up hurting somebody. That's just how I feel about it. So from schools to corporate America to the court systems, if you can get involved with juvenile detention kids, Police departments definitely find a way in. I don't believe in that people say, well, I can't get into this area or I don't know this. Find a way, ask some questions, get in any way that you can, and then, make your footprint. And I'll end with this right here. I worked in education. I was actually working in campus relations. And I used to go to different colleges and universities all over the country. And what I would do is I would have to look for, depending on the area where the school system was that I worked for, I would need to make sure that I found teachers that looked like our kids to teach in our schools. And here's what I found. I went to a school district down in Louisiana, and I'm coming from Michigan. I didn't think about this. I'm thinking just Southern. There are more African-American people in education at a school in the South. Lo and behold, I went to the school and it was complete opposite. It was majority white teachers going into education. And what I'll say is this right here. I created a program. It was called the Ambassador Program. And the Ambassador Program allowed me to almost kind of allow those teachers to go to schools in their area where they were going to do their student teaching at. And prior to doing the student teaching, it was almost like they did a part of a residency, as so to say. And they went into the schools before student teaching began. So let's just say their junior year, and they went in and got involved for about 2 or 3 months, maybe a semester, to go there. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 days a week to see what the environment was. What was the climate of the school? Because here's the thing, from an education standpoint, I think it's 1.9% of all teachers are African-American, right? If we look at that, we also have to flip the Trump and say, well, look on the other side, 50 to 60% of our students are what? African-American. Our teachers are primarily Caucasian. If our teachers that are primarily Caucasian don't know how to deal with our students, don't know how to teach our students, why is Jimmy coming to school and got an attitude all the time? How come I can't relate to him? Well, he might be hungry, right? But if you're not going into the schools and learning to build those relationships, then you're going to go into a school thinking that this school environment is going to be like, for example, an East Grand Rapids type of environment. And when you get your job, you'll realize, no, it's black. It's black and brown students. So I'll just say this. It's very important that people that are maybe going into education or whatever field that they're going into, make sure you do your research before you go onto the field and know how to deal with students. And just from an education standpoint, again, know that our students, depending on the school district, they might make up the majority. And it's going to just increase. It's going to increase. As years go on, it's going to increase. And we need to make sure that if there are more Caucasians teaching our students, more Caucasians need to know how to teach our students. They need to know how to build relationships. They need to know as much as they can, so that way the education that they're given can be beneficial to all. So know your area, know the area you're going into, and know our kids. And that's all I got to say. It was great being on this call. I look forward to talking with you guys later.
Yeah, thank you so much, Derek. And I really don't want to silence anybody, but I want to wrap up in it. So 2 minutes, Anthony and Peter, you guys can give your closing statements. Thank you all for staying a little